Something is definitely changing in Hollywood and the music industry. This is Tony. Hope you're all doing well. We're going to be talking about a number of people you've probably heard of a recent. Kat Von D, for instance, is one of them. Matthew Perry. And actually a number of other people, including Shane Lynch. He was part of a boy band back over a decade ago. Very, very popular one. Something he recently came out and said that's going to pretty much blow your mind. We'll be getting into that, and actually a ton of other things in this video, including Jerry Springer. Did you know that this guy is now gone this year, folks? There's actually multiple Hollywood celebrities that are just, for some reason, this year is the year in which a lot of them have died. We're going to get into that also in this video. First, let's start with Kat Von D. Obviously, you've probably heard, I think it was like a month ago, she came out as a believer, and she did recently an interview on her faith. And what was interesting is some of the things she had to say about those that commented on some of her posts. Like she had one on Instagram showing her baptism. And of course, she was talking about how a lot of comments were, most of them were positive, but she said there were a few that were very negative, and how it actually turns off people in her realm, or in what used to be her realm, sort of, gothic, dark sort of realm. A lot of these people feel like they're already outsiders. And of course, them being told that she's not real, she didn't really make a real declaration here, she's just faking it, stuff like that. People just saying and taking jabs at what she posted. Obviously, I mean, you don't know what's in her heart. You don't know what she really is thinking, what she's doing. And I think, honestly, at this point, it's pretty obvious that she is, I guess you would say, legitimate and solid in her declaration, I think, personally, because she just came out with this about a week ago, where she did this interview talking about her newfound changes in life. And of course, how her husband, she's saying her husband was actually pretty upset with a lot of the comments that people were making, and is actually saying that he didn't want to be a part of it. He didn't want to be a part of a group that was so highly critical. Right? So obviously, these type of comments are a very big turnoff to those looking in from the outside. And of course, honestly, we need to be judging in a right manner, not by appearance. And of course, a lot of people seem to just think it's all about appearance. I remember going to this one convention a long time ago. It was like one of these Uber, just offshoot, very, self-righteous, I guess you would say, type of groups. And they were all about how you looked, how you dressed. Oh, are you wearing makeup? Oh, are you wearing jewelry? You do have a long dress on, stuff like that. And I just remember how ridiculous some of that stuff was when you take it too far, right? Just being really ridiculous about how you look and not really how you act. How you act is obviously much more important. Who you are as a person is much more important than what you're putting on, as long as you're obviously being sane with how you dress. I mean, you know what I'm saying, obviously. I don't need to get into great detail on that stuff here, folks. I mean, give me a break. It's pretty obvious. So obviously, I would consider this to be unwholesome talk. And like I said, we're going to be getting into a ton of stuff in this video. We're going to be talking about a number of actors that have recently passed, even actresses. I don't know if you remember this lady. She was on Three's Company back in the old days. Suzanne Summers, she just recently passed. Of course, Jerry Springer, which, I mean, I didn't even know about it. Like, there's nothing. Only thing I ever heard of recent was Matthew Perry. This is like the only person that was talked about. This guy right here was actually more popular or well-known, I'd say, than Matthew Perry. But no, I didn't hear one word about him. This guy was on Law & Order. He just recently passed as well. Richard Belzer. He was one of my favorite actors on Law & Order. I liked his sarcastic attitude. He's kind of like me. He just talks very, direct, just tells you what he thinks, and he's very sarcastic. That's basically me right there. And of course, this actor here, he's in a number of really awesome action movies. Lance Reddick. At any rate, there's a ton of other people as well, but we're going to be getting into a lot, like I said in this video. We're going to be talking about what happened with Matthew Perry, some rather interesting things he said before he passed, and actually going to get into some other things. This guy, what he had to say, this is really amazing what this guy had to say. Like I said, he was in the music industry, very high up. Shane Lynch from the music group called Boyzone. He was one of those boy bands, super popular back in like 13, 14 years ago. 100 million views on a video kind of guy, you know what I mean? At any rate, he had some rather surprising things to say about the music industry that you and I, this is the stuff we've talked about. He's saying it out in the open. We're going to play it and get into all of it in this video. And actually, I got a lot of other stuff, some stuff from Billie Eilish, Doja Cat, and actually, I got a pretty surprising video from Billie Eilish that a lot of you have not seen, I'm guessing. And then there's this new official video from Megan Thee Stallion, the song called Cobra. Really interesting symbology in that video. We'll get into that as well as we get into this video. First, though, I got to mention food supply, 25-year shelf life. Link is in the description for this, folks. 3 months worth for $7.97. 2 weeks worth for $127. You've been seeing what's been going on around us, folks. I mean, it's pretty obvious. We're in the end, of course, times. I would say it's pretty obvious at this point. I mean, you got WARs going on everywhere at this point, right? You got the economy. I mean, no one can afford anything with this inflation. You got supermarkets closing in Chicago because mass looting. Hundreds of people just going and taking, like, not everything, but half the stuff on the floor, half the stuff taken. They close the Walmarts. They're going to replace them potentially with GOV supermarkets, if you can even imagine that. Sounds like something from a weird end, type of sci-fi movie or something, right? In the end, of course, we have zombie cities. I mean, pretty much the zombie apocalypse in some cities. I mean, honestly, it sounds like a joke, but actually it is kind of looking like that in some areas with how people, they get on, of course, certain things. They literally look like them. At any rate, I mean, obviously you need to be prepared for whatever could come. Link is in the description. Of course, this book here, The Lost Ways, How Your Great-Great-Grandfather Lived Without Electricity, How to Build a Cellar, Do Things Around the House Like They Did in the Good Old Days. Considering the fact that we have all these WARs that could turn into a world WAR, might want to have this book. There are some interesting technology that could very easily render your power gone. Okay, and there's actually also a number of articles talking about power grid. Actually, I had some up. We have all these cyber attacks going on right now. I can actually show you a little bit of this real quick. But they're talking about the power grid as well. For winter, Texas grid conditions this winter. They have concerns over it. Oklahoma. There's actually a number of states in the east. I couldn't even understand why the map didn't show anything in California when they always have power issues. Oklahoma among states with highest risk of power grid shortfalls this winter. You got all these cyber attacks left and right. There's a ton of them, like all in a row. There's been numerous ones this week. Just here's an example. Cyber attack disrupts Washington website. Department of Transportation. You had 2 major ones in Australia. You had one on their second biggest telecom company. And they had one also at their port, DP World Logistics in Australia. We've had a number of them here in America. I just showed you one. Here's another one right here. Bug in Fed's payment system prevents Americans from getting paid. And a lot of this has to do with the banks too. A lot of weird things going on with banks, bank closures. Lots of people having these bizarre bank closures of recent. Weird problems with direct deposits, not getting your money. Makes you wonder if they even have the money to give to you. I talked about how there's a 60 days until literally we're out of money. And when I say that, I'm not just being like making up something in my head. Okay, we literally have the numbers. I showed it in my business video. You have how much money is in the consumer savings accounts in 2021, how much was in October 2023. You subtract, you figure out the rate of loss between those times, and you can figure out when the entire cumulative of all the consumers' bank savings accounts hits 0 is in 60 days. All the cumulative, everybody's bank accounts in America will hit zero. Consumer bank accounts. So I'm talking about like the average. They take all the numbers, add them together. If you take the amount, it's been going down for the last year, and you use that trajectory, you're going to have 60 days until we're literally at $0 in the bank. Everyone, pretty much cumulative. So that's something that a lot of people don't even know about. It's just straight math, folks. At any rate, link is in the description for that. Also, I just updated my website and put up a ton of videos last night, like 15 videos or something. Link is in the description. I mean, there's a ton of really good videos just in the free video section alone. I got tons of awesome videos. Some of my old ones are really good. All the brand new ones, some exclusive ones. This is exclusive right here. Lots of videos that used to be on my channel here, actually. Then I got even more, probably almost near 1,000 now in the membership section. This is just one category in the membership section. This is an hour-and-a-half podcast about Gilgamesh. Absolutely amazing. All new information. A lot of it's new information, folks. We're figuring out a lot of stuff, folks, on our podcast. You're going to definitely want to check it out. We got another awesome one coming up on episode 11. You're just going to mind-blowing, folks. We're putting all the stuff together, showing what they're really wanting to do. Link is in the description for that. $4.95 a month. First month is free. Let's get back to the video. So we were talking about Kat Von D. What's going on with her? Now, obviously, it's by grace that we are, of course, saved, folks. It is a gift of God. It's not something we work for. And so we need to not look and judge by, of course, appearance. We need to look at a person and see kind of what their fruits are. You know, she seems to be consistent. She seems to be like she's a legit person. Honestly, I'm rooting for her. You know, I'm hoping the best and that she's able to, sway people the right direction. At any rate, like I said, Jerry Springer's gone. Maybe no one cared. I don't know. I haven't seen anybody talking about it. That guy was sort of the talk show guy of like the early 2000s with all the ridiculous people he had on there back in the old days. That was kind of like the YouTube of the old days, you know, just the most ridiculous stories you ever heard. People would go on a show, and of course, a lot of it might have been just completely fake. I don't know. It's kind of like WWE or something. But at any rate, of course, lots of other people, like I said, and this was from an old show, Three's Company. That was an old show back in the 80s, I think it was. I used to watch that when I was younger. Suzanne Summers. Matthew Perry, of course. What's interesting about him, some interesting stuff about what happened just before he passed, folks. He had said a number of interesting things talking about, you know, when he first wanted to become an actor, folks. He mentioned whatever holes you're filling seem to keep opening back up. Maybe it is because I was always trying to fill a spiritual hole with a material thing. So this guy was spiritually minded. All right. Apparently he even did a little bit of this for his first acting gig. And that's how he got it, on Friends. He said, I'll do anything for you if you can just get me into some acting role in Hollywood. And of course, I believe he was praying to, God. And I don't think he's praying to something else. Like a lot of these common stories we hear, sort of the dark side, which actually, by the way, we're going to get into in a minute here with this singer. Actually, that's the next thing. We're talking, of course, Shane Lynch, what he had to say, which is pretty surprising. And he just says it really just straight faced, like, yeah, of course. That's what they were doing. Yeah, of course they were doing these satanic things. And he literally gets into it. We'll get into that in a minute. And I don't know if I can get into all this stuff in this video. I'm going to try to get into everything I can. I'm going to be doing the rest over on my other channel, God Rules 2. But what's interesting, of course, Matthew Perry was talking about how he was trying to fill a spiritual hole. And again, like I said, he ended up discovering that there's more to life. Apparently before he passed, folks. And let's see if I can find what else he said. He said something right before that. What was the other thing he said? Let me show you this real quick. I thought there was another thing. Oh, here we go. This is it right here. By 1986, I was pretty sure fame would change everything, and I yearned for it. More than any other person on the face of the planet, I needed it. It was the only thing that could fix me. Obviously not. I was certain of it. Living in LA, you would occasionally bump into a celebrity, or you'd see Billy Crystal at the Improv. Make note of Nicolas Cage in the next booth. And I just knew they had no problems. In fact, all their problems had been washed away. They were famous. So this clearly is not true. This apparently was in his mind back in those days. But I think he got wiser as he got older, folks. Here we have a clip of what he actually said probably shortly after that, right before he got his part. I think it was 3 weeks after he said this. Let's play this part right here, folks, really quick.
And then I knelt down and said, God, you can do whatever you want to me. Just please make me famous.
As you can tell, he wanted to be famous, folks. And, well, apparently he got what he asked for, because 3 weeks later he was famous. He was actually on the TV show Friends. But what's interesting about it is I don't think it really ended there. He realized that wasn't what made him happy, because it ultimately led him to alcohol and realizing that he still was not filling that spiritual void in his life. As he says in his book here. So he was talking about feeling more perfect when he was in the light. The light engendered a feeling more perfect than the most perfect quantity of drugs I had ever taken. Feeling euphoric now, I didn't get scared and tried to shake it off, but there was no shaking this off. It was way bigger than me. My only choice was to surrender to it, which was not hard because it felt so good. The euphoria had begun to, at the top of my head, slowly seep down. I must have sat there for 5 or 6 minutes filled with it. And this is after he had done a prayer, folks. So this here could be an indication, because he said he felt something enter the room. I'm assuming he's referring to the Holy, of course, Spirit. And this is my guess. He obviously was doing a cry for help, as you can see here at the top. This is referring to Matthew Perry here, folks. So obviously, and this was something he did shortly before he was gone. And it is interesting how it seems to happen often to people who seemingly change for the better. Sometimes this kind of thing does indeed happen. We also had a certain actor from the Fast and Furious, Paul Walker, who tragically died as well some years ago. I'm trying to remember how long ago that was. But they still use his likeness in his movies. Their movies, even I think Fast and Furious 10, they used it. But how long ago was that? Maybe 10 years ago? 8 years ago? But he was a believer as well. And he was also, interestingly, doing some research into some charity and noticed some irregularities. I remember talking about this a long time ago, when probably near the beginning of my time on YouTube. And of course, not too long after that, he was gone. So it is interesting how things like that happen. Maybe it's just coincidental. We don't know, of course, what's really all happening there, folks. But the good news is that it looks like Matthew Perry made the right decision. From what I can tell, it's hard to say for sure, but definitely looks like he might have made a good decision right before this all happened. Andrew, I want to get into some other stuff. We have this interview with an award-winning artist. We're talking about Shane Lynch from Boyzone. Again, they were sort of the top of the charts back 13, 14 years ago. He has some rather curious things to say about what he had seen in the music, of course, industry. Let's play a little bit of this here, folks.
Take you away from Christ.
In terms of the lyrics, is that what you mean? Or do you mean the industry itself, people, the big players in the industry?
Both, lyrically, and both big players. Both. I've been in rooms at the top of the top, which albums are prayed over demonically. Music is...
So literally he's saying that they're doing various, religious rituals or something over these albums. And I have heard of this before from other people, but of course it seemed more like it was hard to tell if it was genuine what was being said. This guy seems to be very straight-faced saying this. It seems more genuine the way he's saying it. She even goes on to, get more clarification because it's kind of hard to swallow and believe this. Like, are you literally saying they were doing this? Or are you just saying figuratively this? Which is what she then goes on to ask, I think, next.
Prayed over demonically. That goes out to the world, goes out to the radio stations, goes out to the public. And when you see that stuff and know that stuff, it's frightening.
What do you mean by that, Shane, prayed over demonically?
So rituals, ceremonies, everything to bring, to give light to the devil, to Satan. It's a satanic.
Like, he has to literally explain it out because it's hard to believe. Like, you don't want to believe this kind of stuff. They're really doing this kind of stuff? Are you serious? I mean, it's kind of like this movie, Sound, Freedom, which came out. Of course, a lot of people are like, oh, that's just, what are you talking about? That's crazy. People are doing that stuff. Are you serious? It's hard to believe because you can't imagine someone doing it because you're like, what we would call probably more normal. Okay. And then you got these people over here doing this stuff. You're like, what are you doing? It doesn't seem like something. It sounds because of the veneer of our society, how things look through movies and television. It's all carefully curated to look a certain way. And then you find out what the people are like really that were those actors or actresses behind the scenes. You see what I mean? I was just watching a show and I stopped watching it because it just started getting bad. I'm trying to remember what the show's called. It's like a Marvel show, The Boys or something. What is it called? It's like a really sarcastic Marvel like superhero movie type of thing. I got it here. 1 second. I'm trying to turn this on so I can even look at what it was. The Boys. Yeah, it's called The Boys. That's what it's called. And it's basically about these superheroes and how they pretend to be like very nice in public, like they really care about people. They're trying to save their lives. There's this multiple superheroes. They're not like Superman and stuff. They're like some other ones. But they pretend like they're these very, good superhero type guys. But behind the scenes, they're like just totally not good people at all. Like just totally not at all. Like zero. Okay. And it makes you kind of wonder if some of these actors and actresses might be the same way. Some of them, I'm not saying all of them, some of them might be very nice and genuine. Like I think people like Keanu Reeves are probably very nice and genuine. But you know what I'm saying. At any rate, so he's talking about the music industry and how all these bizarre things are going on. Let's play a little bit more.
Music industry. That's majority of what it is.
Do you mean figuratively or do you mean literally you've been in...
Literally, yes.
See what I'm saying? Like literally, it's so hilarious because like he already answered this. Like she's like, are you saying for real? Yeah, I'm saying for real. No, like, are you literally saying for real? Like not figuratively. Yeah, bro. Yes, for real. You know what I mean? Like you got to like literally say it 3 times, 4 times. I don't believe you still. You're supposed to be famous. You're not supposed to say stuff like this, dude.
And can you share what those albums were? Were they your albums?
No, they weren't our albums, no. They were not Boys' own albums. So that's what I mean by not every music is that. But it was on the stepping stone to that. So you're going back to...
So like he said he was actually there. Let's see what he has a little bit more.
In 1993s into 2000s. And then if you look at what the music is today, the industry is today, for all your Sam Smiths to your Dojo Cats to your Beyoncés they are so demonic, it's unbelievable. And we can't, it's in front of us.
I think she goes and asks him again, like, did you literally see this? And I think he does say he did see this. Yeah, let me see. I think it's probably right around here. Let's play this.
The world, taking over our children and taking over everything that's coming to the times of world crisis.
Okay, so it basically goes into an advertisement, and she ends up asking the question again, but I saw this over on Nick Jones' channel, so go check him out, folks. I just wanted to play a little bit of that so you get to see it. At any rate, so he's saying literally the stuff was happening, and it's not the only person I've heard saying this. I've heard other people, other famous music artists saying pretty much the same thing. And so clearly there is some stuff like that going on. It's pretty obvious. And actually, I'm going to show you some examples, I think, personally, of these things happening. And I think this is a very recent one, Megan Thee Stallion, where you can see here clearly, again, just like Doja Cat's video. Actually, she had a very similar scene in hers. Where was that at? And there's some weird, interesting... Yeah, so here we go. This is Doja Cat's right here. I think she shows sort of the cat eyes, I think, in the beginning or something, but you can see clearly something grabbing the back of her head here. You can see here the eye. You can see, I mean, goodness gracious, folks. This is from the Doja Cat Demon song, which, of course, I think sort of backfired on them because there's a lot of people commenting that this song was basically making them go back to church and stuff like that. So it didn't work out too well if they were trying to get people to go the opposite direction. And actually, what's interesting, like I said, I'm going to get into a ton more. Actually, over on my other channel, there's a lot of symbolism in this song that's just like right out of the Garden, of course, of Eden. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous, actually. And there's even some interesting symbols in the song as well. And I'm going to even go over some stuff from Billie Eilish. Have you ever seen this? I'm going to get into that as well. That one's kind of weird. But actually, I'm going to get into a ton more over my other channel. Kind of wonder what some of you guys think. Let me know in the comment section below. And thanks for watching.